What if everything you've been told about aging is wrong? What if the so-called midlife crisis isn't a collapse, but a calling? What if life isn't winding down, but actually waking up? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, once said, "Life really begins at 40. Until then, you're just doing research." It's a bold statement, one that challenges modern assumptions about success, aging, and purpose. But Jung wasn't being poetic. He believed the first half of life, though full of effort and growth, is merely a preparation. The real transformation begins only when we start living in alignment with who we truly are. In this video, we'll explore what Jung really meant by that statement, and why the second half of life may be the most important part of your psychological and spiritual journey. We'll look at how the first half of life lays the groundwork, why midlife can feel so unsettling, and how that discomfort can actually be the beginning of something much deeper, a process Jung called individuation. We'll also explore how modern neuroscience and psychology support Jung's vision, and why many people find greater clarity, freedom, and fulfillment after 40, not in spite of getting older, but because of it. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Mental Dose channel and join our Telegram community, where you'll get early access to new videos and insights on personal and spiritual growth. Now let's get started. In Jung's view, the first decades of life are structured around building the self we present to the world. He called this our persona, a kind of mask that allows us to function in society. It's shaped by cultural expectations, family values, and the drive to succeed and be accepted. In our 20s and 30s, we're mostly focused on doing, building careers, forming relationships, creating stability, and gaining recognition. This phase is essential. It helps us develop the skills and identity needed to participate in the world. But the persona is not the whole self. It's a partial truth, a role we learn to play. And at some point, we begin to feel its limitations. The life we've carefully constructed starts to feel disconnected from something deeper within us. This brings us to a crucial turning point. What unfolds when the life we've built no longer feels like it fits? As we approach midlife, a quiet shift often begins. The external goals that once motivated us, success, ambition, approval, start to lose their grip. We begin to question the paths we've chosen, not necessarily because they've failed, but because they no longer resonate. A subtle dissatisfaction can arise, even in the midst of what looks like a stable life. Mainstream culture often treats this as a crisis, but Jung viewed it very differently. He saw this moment not as collapse, but as the start of a deeper phase of development. It's the beginning of what he called individuation, a psychological process in which we stop living according to others' scripts and start exploring who we really are. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It usually begins with discomfort, an inner friction between the life we're living and the life we yearn for. But beneath the discomfort is an invitation to go inward, to reflect, and to ask ourselves deeper questions about meaning, purpose, and identity. To understand how this inner shift leads to psychological wholeness, we now turn to one of Jung's most powerful ideas. Individuation is not about self-improvement, it's about integration. It's the process of becoming whole by embracing all parts of the self, even those we've ignored, rejected, or buried. Central to this process is what Jung called the shadow, the unconscious side of our personality, home to the traits we're afraid to acknowledge. The shadow isn't necessarily negative. It can contain creative potential, emotional truth, and spiritual depth, but accessing it requires honesty and courage. It means moving beyond the image we've built, the achiever, the caretaker, the provider, and encountering the raw, complex self beneath. Through this work, we begin to develop a more authentic relationship with ourselves. We're no longer driven only by social approval or personal ambition, but by a sense of inner alignment. Individuation asks not, "What should I be?" but who am I really? This journey inward can be intense, but it's also deeply liberating. And interestingly, modern science backs this up. Though Jung developed his ideas in the early 1900s, modern psychology and neuroscience now affirm much of what he intuited. Studies have shown that as we age, our brains become better at emotional regulation. We become less reactive, more reflective. We're more capable of facing life's challenges with clarity rather than panic. A 2010 study published in PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, found that life satisfaction follows a U-shaped curve. It dips in midlife, but begins to rise steadily after, peaking later in life. The reason? People begin to shift from chasing external validation to pursuing internal meaning. Psychologists like Brené Brown describe midlife not as a breakdown, but a reckoning, a time when old beliefs are stripped away, and what remains is a chance to rebuild from truth. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, argued that the primary drive in human beings is the will to meaning. And that drive, Jung believed, comes fully alive in the second half of life. Before we go on, if this video is helping you see things more clearly, consider sharing it with someone who needs it. And if you'd like to support this kind of thoughtful content, you can click the thanks button below. Your support truly helps. Now let's continue. In Jung's vision, midlife is not a decline. It's an opening. For the first time, we have the chance to stop performing and start living. We're no longer trying to become someone. We're uncovering who we've been all along. This is the gift of individuation, the freedom to live from the inside out. This process may require letting go of relationships that no longer nourish us, letting go of goals that no longer inspire us, letting go of versions of ourselves we've outgrown. It's not easy and it can feel like loss, but it's also the path to depth, clarity, and inner peace. Abraham Maslow called this state self-actualization, the full expression of our potential. But Jung saw it as even more than that. It's spiritual, it's soulful, it's about becoming whole, integrating not only the good and the successful, but also the vulnerable, the uncertain, and the unresolved. Studies consistently show that people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond report higher levels of life satisfaction, greater emotional depth, and stronger relationships. Why? Because they are finally living according to their own values, not someone else's. Carl Jung didn't fear aging. He understood its purpose. He knew that by the age of 40 we might not have all the answers, but we finally begin to ask the right questions. And that changes everything. Midlife is not something to dread. It's the beginning of a new phase, a phase of alignment, clarity, and authenticity. If you're at that stage or approaching it, you haven't missed your chance. You're right on time. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment below and share your thoughts or personal experience. What has midlife meant for you? And don't forget to subscribe to Mental Dose for more thoughtful, in-depth content like this. Your journey doesn't end here, and neither does the conversation. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep growing.